Thousands of years ago, far from any village and hidden beside a dense forest, there stood a school built of stone and dust. During the day it looked ordinary, but when the sun began to sink, even the wind seemed afraid to pass through its broken windows. People whispered that this was not a place where knowledge was taught, but where fear was learned. The children who studied there were not like other children. Their laughter had disappeared. Their eyes carried a tiredness that did not belong to their age. When asked about the school, they never gave clear answers. They would only say one thing, again and again. They were never alone. There were empty chairs in every classroom. During the day they stayed empty, but the children felt that after sunset, those chairs were no longer vacant. They felt presences sitting beside them, close enough to feel a cold breath near their ears. Soft voices would reach them, slow and heavy, telling them to stay silent, telling them not to speak about what they saw. The jinn never showed themselves clearly. They did not need to. They lived inside the fear of the children. They knew every secret, every weakness, every hidden thought. They controlled not with chains or wounds, but with visions. If a child resisted, the shadows would show them images of lost homes filled with darkness. Parents standing silent, familiar faces slowly fading away. The message was clear without a single threat being spoken. Fear became obedience. Each year, some children changed. They still walked, still spoke, but something inside them was gone. Their eyes looked empty, as if a part of them had been taken and never returned. And some children vanished completely. Their names were written in the school records in the morning, and by evening only the names remained. Teachers claimed they had been sent away. The children knew better. They knew the school itself had kept them. The most painful horror was that the children could not scream. Their fear stayed trapped inside their chests, heavy and silent. Tears refused to fall. At night, lying awake, they covered their ears and waited for sleep, knowing that morning would bring them back to the same walls, the same shadows, the same unseen watchers. Centuries passed, and the school finally collapsed into ruins. People believed the darkness had died with it, but travelers who passed that place at night still spoke of strange sounds, soft breathing, the scratch of slate against stone, and faint footsteps moving through empty halls. The school stood where no road willingly ended. Stone walls leaned inward as if listening, and the forest behind it never went silent. Even in daylight, shadows clung to the windows like stains that could not be washed away. Children arrived every morning with lowered heads, already tired, already afraid, as if the building had been calling them all night. Inside, the air felt old, not dusty, old, like something that had been breathing there for centuries. The children sensed it the moment they crossed the doorway. Their footsteps grew lighter, careful, as though any sound might wake what was already awake. They learned quickly that the school did not like noise. When lessons began, it felt normal only on the surface. Chalk moved on the board, pages turned, but between every sound was a pause that lasted too long. In those pauses, the children felt watched. Not from the front of the room, but from beside them, behind them, from the empty chairs that were never really empty. Cold pressed against their arms, breaths brushed their necks. No one dared to turn around. The jinn did not appear like monsters. They appeared like thoughts that were not your own. A child would suddenly know something they had never said aloud. A fear they had buried would rise, clear and sharp. The jinn fed on that fear. They grew closer when a child was weak, when homesickness turned into despair, when courage finally broke. Sometimes the children were shown things, not with eyes, but with memory, a warm home becoming dark, a mother's voice fading, a door that would never open again. The images were never violent, never loud, but they were enough. The children understood the rule without it being spoken: obey or lose everything. The change came slowly. A child would stop talking, another would stop eating. Smiles disappeared first, then hope. Their faces looked the same, but something behind their eyes was missing. Those children still returned home each day, yet their homes no longer recognized them. They belonged to the school now, even when they were not inside it. Others never returned at all. One morning their seat would be filled. By afternoon it would be empty. Teachers wrote notes, made excuses, closed the registers. But the children noticed the pattern. Names vanished. Memories followed. After a while, even the fear of asking questions faded. Silence became survival. At night, the school changed. The walls seemed closer, the floor colder. Whispers traveled freely then, slow and patient, repeating lessons no human teacher had ever taught. The jinn moved through the halls like shadows stitched into darkness. This was their time. This was when the school was fully alive. Centuries later, the building fell. Roofs collapsed. Stones cracked. People said the evil had ended. They were wrong. The forest still avoids that place. Animals refuse to cross the ruins. And those who pass by after sunset feel the same pressure in their chest, the same heavy silence pressing against their ears. Sometimes, if the night is still enough, a sound carries through the broken walls, the faint scrape of chalk, a child's breath held too long, and a voice that does not hurry. Long after the school became ruins, long after its name was forgotten, the place continued to exist in a way stone and wood did not. Time passed over it, but it did not move on. Night after night, the darkness gathered there as if answering a silent call. Travelers who rested too close to the ruins spoke of the same feeling, a weight on the chest, a sense of being counted. Sleep never came easily, dreams felt watched. Some woke with the clear memory of sitting at a desk, hands cold, hearing a lesson they could not remember once morning came. The jinn never left because the school was never just a building. It was an agreement made long ago. Fear had been offered there, again and again, until it soaked into the ground. The jinn did not need walls anymore. They had learned patience from children who waited for help that never arrived. Sometimes a child from a nearby village would wander too close. Drawn by curiosity, drawn by silence, the ruins did not speak out loud, but something inside the child would feel familiar, like returning to a place they had seen in a dream. Footsteps would slow, the air would grow heavy, and for a moment, just a moment, the past would breathe again. Those children would return home changed. They would stare at walls too long. They would flinch at the sound of chalk on stone. At night, they would whisper lessons no one had taught them, in voices that did not fully belong to them. Their parents would think it was imagination, fear, stories passed down through generations. But the jinn knew better. They no longer needed classrooms. They no longer needed teachers. All they needed was memory. Fear remembered is fear reborn. And as long as someone remembers the school, as long as someone feels afraid of what happened there, the lesson continues. On the coldest nights, when the wind stops and even insects fall silent, something moves among the ruins. Not a body, not a shadow, a presence shaped by centuries of quiet suffering. It listens for footsteps. It listens for breath, and when it finds someone who can hear it, a soft whisper rises from the darkness, not angry, not loud, but certain. You are late. Sit down. Class is still in session. The silence after those words is the worst part. No scream follows. No sudden movement. Just the feeling that the world has narrowed into a single place where escape was never meant to exist. The ground remembers every step ever taken there. The air remembers every breath that trembled with fear. Nothing is forgotten. People still pass by in daylight and see only broken stones. They laugh at the stories. They say fear survives only in the mind. But fear has roots, and this place is where they grow deepest. The jinn do not chase, they do not hunt, they wait. Waiting is what they learned best from children who sat quietly, hoping someone would come. Every ruin is a page, every shadow is a sentence, and every night the story reads itself again. Those who feel uneasy near the place are the lucky ones. They leave, they forget, they survive. But those who feel a strange calm, those who feel as if they belong, they are the ones the school remembers. And once remembered, you are never truly allowed to leave. Nothing dramatic happens at first, life goes on. Days pass. The person who felt that calm near the ruins returns to their routine, convinced it was only imagination. But something small is missing, sleep becomes shallow, silence feels too loud, empty rooms feel crowded. They begin to notice patterns, the same time every night, a pause, the same cold feeling near walls. Sometimes, without realizing it, they sit still for long minutes, staring at nothing, just like children once did at their desks. Memories that are not theirs begin to surface, the smell of old stone, the sound of chalk breaking, the pressure of being watched without being seen. These memories do not ask permission, they arrive complete. Fear does not come all at once, it comes slowly, gently, almost kindly, the way a teacher approaches a quiet student. By the time the person understands, it is already familiar, comforting even. The idea of leaving feels strange now. The outside world feels loud, careless, wrong. Some nights they whisper without knowing why. Not words, lessons. Rules, warnings, their voice is calm, older than it should be. The school no longer needs ruins. It no longer needs jinn to stand in corners. It lives wherever fear is accepted without resistance. And somewhere, unseen, the class grows larger. Attendance is never taken, but everyone is counted. Then listen to the last truth the story leaves behind. The fear does not feel like fear anymore. That is how it survives. It settles into the mind quietly. Like a lesson repeated so many times, it no longer sounds strange. The person begins to understand things without learning them. Silence starts to make sense. Obedience feels natural. They notice children differently now, not with kindness, not with cruelty, with recognition. The same tired eyes, the same quiet patience, the same invisible weight pressing down on small shoulders, and somewhere deep inside, something old stirs, pleased, awake. The school was never destroyed. It was passed on, not through walls, not through books, but through fear that learned how to live inside people. That is why the jinn never disappear. They do not need places anymore. They need permission. And permission is given every time fear is accepted, every time silence is chosen, every time no one speaks. Some nights, the person dreams of desks arranged in perfect rows. Every seat is filled, but no faces can be seen. The room feels complete, balanced, alive. A presence stands where the teacher should be, patient and ancient, watching the class breathe. There is no bell, there is no end, only continuation, and somewhere right now a lesson is being taught without sound, without mercy, without escape. The lesson spreads quietly. No one announces it, no one warns about it. It moves the way shadows move, only noticeable when the light is gone. People begin to feel watched in places that were once safe, classrooms, empty halls, silent rooms at night. The fear has no face now, no name, only familiarity. Those who carry it do not realize they are carrying anything at all. They believe the heaviness is normal, that the silence is deserved, that questions are dangerous. They teach these things without words, simply by existing the way they do, calm, obedient, hollow. And somewhere far from the ruins, a child pauses while walking past an old building. Nothing happens. No sound, no movement, just a feeling of being noticed. That is enough. The school recognizes them. It always does.